Lynn and Nuxoll.
I feel like I'm in Oscars. All right, I am not here to talk on that subject, actually, so I'm going to switch gears here. I just had a few questions, which, because this isn't a discussion, I know that you can't answer for me, but I'm hoping that I can get some answers. I'd like to talk about the one-to-one initiative that we're voting on tonight. It looks to me like we're about to spend close to $500,000 to put devices in the hands of everyone from 6th grade to 12th grade. As a parent, I have some concerns with respect to that amount of money being spent. To date, I have not heard about how this program is going to roll out. I haven't seen a piece of curriculum that indicates how these devices are necessary and how they're going to be integrated into the curriculum. I haven't seen anything about the percentage of time that students are going to spend in front of a screen. I did a cursory search on screen time and one-to-one programs, and there are quite a few concerning issues with respect to screen time. I think it's no secret that doctors, medical providers, teachers will know that excessive screen time can be harmful to children. There's some studies I have here that I'd be happy to leave, but NPR reported that it found 6th graders who went 5 days without exposure to technology were significantly better at reading human emotions than kids who had regular access to phones, televisions, and computers. It goes on and on to say screen time is making kids moody, lazy, and crazy. Our one-to-one laptop programs worth the investment. One of the things that I did find is that in order for these programs to be successful, there has to be a clear plan on how the curriculum interfaces with these pieces of technology, how the teachers are taught to use these pieces of technology, what the training is going to be for these pieces of technology. To date, as a parent, all I've heard is really rumors that we're getting one-to-one technology. I haven't heard any logistics about, does my child have to have this? We have access to those things at home. So I'm not keen on my child having to take a device to and from school and being responsible for the wear and tear, the possible damage and the maintenance with respect to that machine. My child is involved in after-school programs. I have no idea whether that device fits in any of the lockers that are available to him in order to lock it up. For instance, at track practice tonight, where is that device going to be? Is it going to be able to be locked up? If he doesn't want to bring it home and he keeps it in his locker, if it fits in his locker, and again, I don't know the answers to these questions. I'm assuming all of this has been done, but none of this has been shared with me as a parent, and the parents I've talked to don't have any of this information either. So if my child does not want to bring it home, what is the access to power in each of these classrooms? Are we going to have power cords for these devices to be plugged into? Are we going to have power supplies accessible at night near lockers so that devices can be powered and ready for use? How many staff in each building will be available for the maintenance upkeep of these devices? One of the things that was very clear in these articles is that the rollout and implementation of this really is critical when it comes to maintaining, replacing, and making sure that these devices have firewalls, don't have viruses, all of those types of things. I have no understanding of how many people are available in the buildings in order to assist the children with this. I haven't seen any maintenance or replacement budgets for these devices. That was something that was critical in all of these studies that determined whether or not one-to-one devices and implementations were successful. And let's see, if we're going to be plugging in all of these devices, do we know if this is going to impact any of the electricity bills at any of these buildings? Do we have a grid that supports plugging in all of these devices? I'm hoping that all of these questions have been asked and that there are answers to these. They have not been shared with me as a parent. I don't understand the responsibility my child is going to undertake with this device. I've not been told whether or not my child can opt out of having this device. I have no idea how much screen time my child is going to be having as a result of having this device? Is he going to be allowed to take notes on paper, or are we moving to taking notes on these devices? Is the 3-ring binder that he carries going to be replaced by this device, or is now he going to have to carry a 3-ring binder and this device and all of the other things? So I have lots of questions, and I guess my major concern, and I'll wrap it up, is that $500,000 is an extraordinary amount of money for a school district that always says we don't have the budget for certain things. I have real concern about voting this through without understanding that all of this work and all of these answers are in place and that the district is ready to tackle all of these. $500,000 could employ several more teachers, and there's plenty of data to support the fact that smaller class size and access to teachers has real impact on learning and positive impact on learning. And so if our budget dollars are so few and far between, I just want to know that we've really done the research necessary to understand if this is really the best idea for our kids, and that we're going to actually translate that into better equipping them and better learning and better knowledge base. So I would greatly appreciate some answers to some of these questions. If you have that data, that'd be great. I know as a parent, I'd love to see it. I think other parents would like to see it. And if this hasn't been done, then I'm going to ask you to pause on your vote tonight, because that's a lot of money. And once we pull the trigger on that, we can't take that back until we do have this in place and we do understand all of the logistics and requirements. And it's not just, it sounds really great for everybody to have a one-to-one device. I'm not sure that the research and the studies prove that to be true. Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Number 8, approval of junior high and high school internet infrastructure.
So we can just shy of $1,000 out of pocket for this wireless access point.
A little bit of information about that too. Before we even did E-rate, we went out and looked at this just to get some preliminary numbers, and that number was substantially higher. Whenever you introduce the word E-rate, companies start bidding like crazy, and they drop their prices substantially. So there is a lot of benefit to doing E-rate. Like Trent said, it is very competitively bid, and there is a lot of policies and procedures that you have to follow whenever you're doing E-rate. Like it has to be open for how many days? 28 days. And you have to. There's an entire matrix that you have to build based off of those what everybody turns in. But the number one deciding factor is always cost. And all the other factors you can make up your own. You can say, well, I know this company really well. I've been working with them in the past. This is what other districts are doing. But again, when it comes down to it, cost is the number one deciding factor, and it has to weigh the highest.
Questions with that? We haven't talked about E-rate a whole lot in the past, but we are using about $24,000 of E-rate Category 2 funding for the Middletown Addition infrastructure as well. That's not something we really, talk about a whole lot, but we did take advantage of that opportunity there as well.
And keep in mind, it's very building to building as to how much E-rate money we can actually utilize. So we actually have a substantial amount of E-rate monies available to us, but each building only has a small portion of that. So we can't take all of Middletown's money or Center's money or whatever building it is and pour it into one building. It's based off of those student populations.
I'm just still dumbfounded by the first slide of the 1,800 devices that are running. Like, I hope they're listening when they're learning. That's a lot.
But even
the teacher,
they could just be connected, right? They're not necessarily doing stuff. They're just whenever you walk in the door, your phone connects.
But you figure at 1,000 high schoolers, probably the vast majority of them have a
Correct.
phone, and then, like
Right.
you say, connects as soon as they
Well,
want.
you talked about the number of teacher devices, right? We have 200 laptops in the district. We have 200 plus iPads in the district. I mean, you're talking a lot of devices.
Include the printers and
Printers are wired, so they don't count. So no, they're just wireless. Yeah, these are strictly just this laptops and Chromebooks.
How long are these things supposed to last?
5 years is the average, and this is I based my I based my policies off of what other districts are doing, the best case scenarios, and we want to make sure that we're providing the wireless necessary for everybody, and not just the people who connect first. We can stretch it further, but then obviously you know as well as I do, technologies change. The wireless access points that were put in 2013, we've gone through 3 iterations of new wireless technologies since then. And speeds have, gotten faster, they've been able to handle more devices. So a lot of things have changed since 2013, and it will continue to change. I mean, unfortunately, I hate to be this way, but what do you want me to do, right? I gotta keep coming forward, and we gotta keep moving the district in the correct direction. Any other questions?
Yeah, well, we want our kids working on those Play-Dohs. I mean, the bottom line is, it's our world today.
It is,
So-
it absolutely is.
So I want to make sure that we're doing it prudently, and
And-
we don't have to have every new,
Correct. And that's the thing, right? Like, the model of access point that we went with is not the best by any means, but it is that middle of the road, right where we should be. I don't want the bottom, the cheapest, but I don't want the most expensive. I want right where we should be. And we did look at this very, very hard, and we've had, like I said, multiple companies bid on this. We looked at this last year and decided not to pursue it, but to me, this is the right time.
So this upgrade
Mhm.
is going to support the one-to-one.
Yes.
So, because we're putting 1,800, and we're putting on top of that another 1,800.
Correct. Yeah, so what we're doing is, right now, if you think about the high school and the junior high, there is wireless in every other classroom. And that wireless bleeds from one room to another, just like across the wall. What we're actually doing is we're placing a unit in every single classroom. So that if I'm in this room, I connect to the wireless in this room, not to the room next door to me. It's typical in schools because we have cinder block walls, especially at the high school and the junior high. Cinder block walls do not let wireless transmit real well, just because of the composition of the material. This building, I could probably get away with every other classroom, just because it is steel walls and they're a little bit more hollow, so.
What is our backup for protection if, like, the wireless doesn't work, and that's the instructional?
There isn't, unfortunately. We are, I am looking at backup plans in terms of, there are brains behind the wireless. I'm looking at backup plans for those, but that would be something that I just take care of out of my yearly budget. So that's neither here nor there.
I just know it happens. My niece
It
went
does.
to high school in Chicago, and she's like, we didn't do anything all day, because we couldn't use our iPads all day, and I was like,
It does.
wow. And that makes me think of safety and all these other things that can
Right.
come up if you got kids that can't have an instructional line.
And in the 2 years that I've been here, the wireless actually going down. Now, this varies depending on what you're actually considering wireless. But in what I deem wireless, in the 2 years I've been here, the wireless technically has never gone down. Now, other portions of the internet have gone out
Sure.
and connectivity has gone down, but the wireless has never actually gone down. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. It gets really in the mud whenever you start talking about this, but in terms of the actual connectivity, the wireless itself, never failed.
Jared, we need to do this even if we were not going to go one-to-one at junior high and high school.
Yes, there are dead zones at the high school, for sure. I can tell you the basement, specifically where Mr. Coker is located, complains constantly. Just because there's 4 classrooms right there that are all grouped together, and there's just not enough space for enough wireless for all of those classrooms. That one screams out at me the loudest, for sure, but yeah, it is definitely something we should do.
So did I hear correctly that without E-rate, the $73,000 bid itself could be way higher?
Even if-
Well,
if we
and
go
our
it
kids
alone,
that are on free
Right.
reduced
If you go-
lunch,
if you
they
go
It'd be
don't-
higher than the 70.
It was up in the 90s.
It was upper 90s.
Okay, got it. I would encourage you to think, because of our increased reliance on this in the buildings, to think about what redundancy plans might be.
I'm working on that in terms of my internal budgeting. It would be minimal in terms of like my cost.
Do you have a stated goal for uptime?
I shoot to achieve in the 5 nines, which is 99.999% uptime. which equals out to about 5 minutes a year of downtime. That's my goal. So, whether I achieve that,
What's the install window on this?
it's for summer. So, we give them the green light on it, and we get them on, they'll get us on their books, and we'll plug away. You're looking at maybe 2 weeks of work, but there will be no outages. It's just additions.
Superintendent recommends the board that approve the junior high and high school internet infrastructure as presented. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Now we can have discussion, but we've already asked a lot of questions. Is there any more discussion?
I wouldn't want 4 dead classrooms. I'd be very frustrated.
It does get very frustrating for this.
I'd be very frustrated.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, no more questions, we'll roll call, please.
Malkai?
Yes.
Park? Yes. Castle?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Giles?
Yes.
Raver?
Yes.
McCombs?
Now, we had looked at, these are non-touch models, so there is no touch screen. We had looked at going touch, but you see that $176.99 per Chromebook? You add in touch, $300 immediately. Would it be nice to do touch? Absolutely, we would love to do that. But at this point in time, it's just not a viable solution. We gotta wait until those touch costs come down. In addition to the $300, then you gotta keep in mind too, that if a kid does drop it and break the screen, the cost to replace those screens are dramatically higher. Think about if you drop your cell phone, how much it costs to replace those screens. And then on top of this $176.99, there is a $23 license from Google that every Chromebook, no matter where you buy it from, that is associated with it. Google mandates those costs. It's just something that we have to pay. It's for management of the Chromebook itself. So what happens if the kid does drop it? We are going to place every single Chromebook in what they call an always-on case. What that means is the Chromebook should, unless the kid takes it out of the case, should never leave the case. So whenever they zip it up, the Chromebook is secured inside. Whenever they open it up, the case is still on, and if it falls off the desk, theoretically everything should be fine. The nice thing about these cases is they're very thin. They are customized with our school logos, and then there's a location for their school ID that you can place on the outside so that they know whose Chromebook is due. Keep in mind the logo and the colors are at no additional cost. So that is included in the pricing, and these are very, very competitively priced.
Am I allowed to ask a question? Why don't you ask us afterwards, we'll get back to you.
So, with the Chromebook and with the case and all this good stuff, this is great, but how do you actually manage the classroom and how do you protect the students whenever they're outside of our walls? So we're recommending that the district go with a solution called GoGuardian. It provides in-school and out-of-school filtering. Then there's an additional component for classroom management for the teachers. And then, on top of that, there is what GoGuardian calls smart alerts. So if there is a student who, let's talk about self-harm. If the student is searching for ways to cause self-harm to themselves, the GoGuardian app will automatically notify our staff that, hey, this student is looking at these websites, here are the sites that they looked at, and here is the search results, et cetera, et cetera. There's these 5 tabs that are open, you can see this. What action would you like to take? That action includes shutting the Chromebook down, in terms of no more internet access for that student, or a follow-up in terms of a physical one-on-one conversation. And you get to review that as the administrator or staff member to look and see what was actually, is this an actual research project, or is this actually some student that's causing potentially harm to themselves? Classroom management piece. We feel it's extremely important that the teacher is the most important piece in this entire thing. We've said this over and over and over again. We want them to determine how they manage their classroom. If they want to use this component, fantastic. If they don't, that's okay too. But we want to make sure that these tools are available to them. We want to make sure that they can increase instruction time. So whenever I'm a student, I walk into the classroom, the teacher can preload what tabs I want them to open as soon as they open their Chromebook. And it's all done automatically for the teacher. It knows what time their class runs from. For example, from 8:30 to this, to 9 o'clock, I am in this class. And the teacher says, I open these 3 tabs, and these are the only 3 tabs that you're going to get. And that's it. Along those same lines, I can control what access they can or cannot access. So if I want them to be looking at the first half, I want them to look at these 3 tabs, great, but the second half of the class, you know what? We can allow them to do whatever they want because they've earned that right. And then at the end of the lesson, at the end of the day, GoGuardian provides a time on task report for those teachers. So Johnny can, or the teacher can report on Johnny that says, this is what exactly Johnny was doing. For example, we've been doing a pilot. A teacher at the high school has been doing this pilot program, and we were given an online test, called it Kid Key, because he saw exactly what tab that student was looking at, and he was going back and forth between a Google search and a test. Google search, test. And GoGuardian shows me exactly what John did.
Did we give the kid creativity?
I don't have any idea. I was just like, well, the proof of concept worked.
Yeah, okay.
So it was good. So next thing, the next component in this is filtering in and out of school. Filters are great, but what we need to understand is we're not just blocking certain sites. We actually need to understand the context of the site. And again, is this a research project, or is this actually something that needs to be blocked and do we need further action? Again, no matter where the student is, if they have internet access and they're going to be browsing the web, they're going to adhere to the same rules, regardless if they're in school or out of school. They're exactly the same. The policies do not change. And those are set by us. If we want to change them, we're more than happy to do that. But again, the idea is that the rules doesn't matter where you are. Physical location doesn't change. Smart alerts, and this was taken directly from GoGuardian, so I cannot lay any claim to this statement. Improve digital citizenship by making the students make the right choices. If the student knows that we're tracking them and looking at what they're doing, do you think they're going to make the right choice more often than not? We hope. That's the idea. Again, notifying students if there is something that requires intervention. So to me, that right there, that component alone, huge.
So Jared, can I ask you?
Yes.
The pilot that you guys did?
Yes.
Were the students aware of the GoGuardian?
Yes.
And yet the students still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are going to test the limits.
They are going to test limits, right.
Well, maybe the teachers have to do
Well, it was after the fact. It was that after action report that he realized. And so he had the discussion afterwards and we moved on. So it's a comfort for the teacher, right? The number one thing that we've had discussions about with teachers is, well, how do I manage my classroom? This is great, this is awesome, but how do we make sure that the students are doing what they're supposed to do? It's no longer the same the kid drawing stick figures, it's actually the kid has the internet at their fingertips. So how do we manage that? So that solution, by providing GoGuardian, does that. Switching gears, teacher laptops. So, we bought these back 5 years ago. That's quite a long time in terms of laptops. Some primary examples of what's going on. We've had a lot of screens go bad. Batteries are going bad constantly. Several of you know this. People complain all the time that, hey, I've got maybe 10 minutes of use before I have to plug it in. And then they just complain of general slowness, right? Oh, give me 20 minutes while this loads. So as a department, we have tried our best to Band-Aid as much as we possibly can without spending an obscene amount of money. We've reached out limits. There's no more that we can do in terms of improving the speed of these laptops. So what we're recommending is a new laptop that's thinner, lighter, faster, provides longer battery life. We've actually talked to several different teachers and asked them, what do you guys want? Some of them said, give you the thinnest and lightest laptop you possibly can, but then we had to weigh in. One of the things that a lot of teachers really enjoy is the number pad on the side for getting grades. If you have a super thin and super tiny laptop, number pad is gone. So we kind of had to weigh the positives and the negatives in terms of how thin we wanted to go. We tried to do the best that we possibly can. Again, this was competitively priced. With laptops, you don't actually have to go out to bid, but we did kind of do our own mock competitive bidding where we notified several different vendors and said, hey, we're looking at these laptops. We want you to provide a quote for this model. And so they would. And then we went to another vendor and say, different model, here you go. And then we just looked at the pricing and said, okay, where is the best solution for us? Now this is transparent again.
So this looks somewhat familiar from, I guess, back in November, we presented the details on quantity and cost of Chromebooks, now with the addition of the laptops. But we'll take you through it real quick here. 7 grades at 250 students a grade. We've got looking at 1,750 Chromebooks, plus an extra 240 for replacement. You know, we've discussed at length the replacement policies and things and kind of what surrounds that, but now looking at the quantities. So we're up to 1,990 total Chromebooks, plus the existing junior high and high school supply that's still available to us and still works well, 530. So we'd be looking at purchasing 1,460 Chromebooks. Unit cost, the best unit cost I've seen, I think, since I've been here, but Jared really, he had the vendors really sharpen the pencil, which I can certainly appreciate. So,
I mean, coming down to the last day before, like
Yeah.
that morning of going out to bid, I was like, hold on one second, I got another one coming in. So it was very, very competitive.
he even talking down the license fee, it was $24.50, now it's $23. So we're a penny shy of $200 all said and done for that whole unit. So the total cost there, $291,985. Teacher laptops, meaning 215 laptops. We have about 205 certified staff that would be receiving those, and then just a few there for extra, just for the same replacement reason. Unit cost $669. Again, same thing with the cost. You really put it to them with getting the best price. $143,835. I'm gonna open up the financial scenario here. This is the exact model we presented back in November with the updated cost. We look at a 4-year lease purchase, a tax-exempt municipal lease purchase agreement. I requested rates from about 3 or 4 different banks in Champaign County. Received a rate of 272. So the total payment over the 4 years would be $114,490 per year for the next 4. We just buy the cases outright for all 1990 Chromebooks. So that would be just shy of $45,000. Classroom management, the Go Guardian, for 2,500 devices. So that would also include Lincoln Trail. Would be $19 per student or per device, but in this case, $47,500.
That's a 3-year license, by the way, that's not per year. So that is covering us for 3 years, correct?
So then we look at some professional development that we're looking at, we've completed some of that already this year. So I haven't factored into 2018-19 cost, but we're taking on some of that cost now within this FY18. Trainer stipends, so stipends for the trainers, so our own staff being trained and then training our own staff. Trainee stipends, those receiving the training would be receiving stipends for $180 per teacher. And look at the revenue side, like we talked about back in November, still we're looking at increasing fees really across the district. We haven't done that since 12-13 anyway, we're due. So we're increasing elementary school and junior high. Elementary schools from 85 to 110, so a $25 increase. And then junior high and high school would see a $50 per student increase. Junior high would be from 85 to 135, and high school 120 to 170. The revenue I figured for this, in terms of the amount, I didn't go 250 per class. I'm sorry. I didn't assume 250 per class. I accounted for the revenue we would receive from the free reduced lunch fee wage students, that is. So I accounted for that as well. Since November, we did hear from CDW in terms of they would receive they offered $8,160 to take our old devices. That
Like a recycle buyback.
Essentially, yeah, they're not worth a whole lot, but.
Hey, $8,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, it's no something.
So in federal grant revenue, Title I, Title II staff development budget money, about $13,950 that we would take from the Title I and Title II federal grants. So net cost in the first year, $104,755. That will be for next fiscal year. Now we'll take a quick look at years 2 through 4. So years thereafter, we'd be looking at that, again, the lease, municipal lease purchase agreement payment. For that, again, the initial outlay outlay of those devices from 1819. But then for the incoming sixth graders and incoming ninth graders, we would buy those out of Jared's tech budget essentially and budget accordingly for those, along with the overage full replacement just the same, along with the cases and the license as well for those devices that would be given to those students entering those grades. Revenue, we're also looking at that, calculating the increase in fees. So years 2 through 4, we'd be looking at net cost of $142,455. It's an investment into technology in the district, and we're at a good point now with moving forward with that. So, any questions with?
Books, the Chromebooks is recyclable.
Say it again.
We're cycling out some books those years too, right?
So at the end of let's say if you're an incoming freshman, you're gonna keep that all 4 years.
Right.
At the end of that 4th year, depending on the condition of it, we could rotate it back down into a lower grade level, or we could allow the students to take it home and just hang on to it. That's theirs to keep for a very small, like buyback or something. We haven't got to that point yet. But incoming 6th graders are getting one as well. And then after they get done with them in the 8th grade, those will get rolled down into Lincoln Trail automatically. So the Chromebooks that you were buying for Lincoln Trail, we may not have to buy as many. So that is another benefit to this, is that we are, rolling those back down into lower grade levels as we can. Keep in mind, the 14% overage, the reason why we did that was we decided not to do, for this first year, warranties. Whenever you look at the cost of warranties, they're usually about $40 per year per Chromebook. You times that by 4 years, I bought you a new Chromebook. So you can do the warranty. That's a lot of districts have gone that path. We're kind of waiting for this year and see how things go. If we determine that we have a ton more damages than what we initially thought we would, then maybe next year I come back and we say, you know what, maybe a warranty is something that we offer to parents.
I'd say since we have the replacements on site, we can respond faster.
We can, and we can.
In the classroom.
Right. The problem with doing warranties is that it takes about a week for you to get that Chromebook back. So you're going to have an extra supply anyway. So it really doesn't, you're not really saving all that much by doing warranty work. So, and we built into the model too, we have a accidental damage protection basically saying, if your student breaks a Chromebook, this is what happens. And we have laid that out, and you guys have seen that in previous board meeting.
Each will have touchscreen.
No. Again, you add in touch, you add in quite a bit of cost. If we go to touch, it'll be in the next iteration. Quite honestly, touch is just not quite there yet. It's great, but quite honestly, what are you more comfortable with? Are you comfortable with reaching out and touching your screen, but then it causes strain on your arm, or are you comfortable with resting your hand on a table and using a mouse or a trackpad?
I don't mean.
You don't use it, exactly. There's my use case.
So the current Chromebooks that we do have, they do not touch.
We have 140 that were purchased with title grant last year. Those we will continue to use for the next 3 years.
So, I mean, Jared, I guess, I know you've done all the homework, but.
Sure.
I mean, in a world of touch, because, let's face it, most kids, it's
Sure.
touch. Everything is touch.
But there's really no apps that support touch really on the Chromebook. So Google, in the past year, less than that, they introduced the Android store that you would have if you had an Android phone on a Chromebook. Really nobody's utilizing it yet. I mean, it's just not quite there yet. Maybe next year, when I come back to you again next year, and we look at different pricing, this is what we move forward with next year. But this first go around, I just don't see touch as being the way to go.
The 500 that we're cycling back in, I'm assuming those are going to go over grades, so they get cycled back out first.
Yeah. We'll start with seniors and work our way down.
And how much surplus are you gonna have? Because I imagine that their machines, they're faulty.
Sure.
A kid could do nothing and it could just go kablunk.
Sure.
So, I mean, how quickly are these kids gonna get replacements?
So again, we're gonna have the 14% extra. But we're also gonna hang on to some of our really old Chromebooks that we have, and we're just going to issue those. It doesn't, the Chromebook doesn't really matter because when they log in with their account, all their information comes in. But we would prefer to give them the newest and best Chromebook that we possibly can for the battery life. And we're planning on keeping stock of parts in-house, so and theoretically, we could have them back to them in another day or two, if we have the part.
But in the meantime, they've got one.
But in the meantime, they will have a different a lower district issued Chromebook that they can continue to utilize.
So then how are we addressing, so, I mean, you're not gonna be available 24/7.
Sure, no,
But, I mean, at home, if these kids are linked to the Chromebook
Sure.
and they can't get the Chromebook to work, and, I mean, I understand the frustration
Sure.
parents are gonna have because they can't get their kids' Chromebook to
Sure.
work. Is there gonna be technical support available, you know, at 7 o'clock in the evening when they've gotta get that project or whatever it is done on that Chromebook?
we didn't really address that as of yet.
We haven't addressed like off school hours time, but we've got a personnel plan for adding district technologists to help support, and also instructional coaches at the K-5 and then 6-12 level. Other districts I've seen have implemented kind of like a help desk helpline in the evenings, and what I saw is that it didn't get used a whole lot. Not to say that, you know, I'm sure there are situations where that would come up.
In terms of the Chromebook, I mean, if the Chromebook turns on, it's gonna connect wirelessly. 9 times out of 10. If there's an issue outside of the Chromebook, there's not a whole lot we can do, right? Like, I don't know what your home experience is in terms of how you have connectivity. There's no way I can predict that. What we have looked at is doing some sort of mobile hotspots that the district provides for those students who do not have Wi-Fi. We have looked at doing that. They're very low cost solutions, and we just basically have a checkout system in the library where we issue a hotspot. You take it home for the evening, you bring it back whenever you're done with it.
Well, I mean, really, it's no different than now. I mean, when I left tonight, Shelby was trying to print something, and, you know, of course, it's a wireless printer, and she was having an issue. I'm like, you know, I gotta go, you know, you're smarter than me on this stuff anyway, you'll figure it out. So, I mean, I guess, you know, our kids are using so much technology at home anyway to do homework. I mean, they're pulling up CPM to do their homework. Well, if, you know, somebody's hits a line with a backhoe at, you know, 6 o'clock at night, everybody's
we're all
out.
out, yeah.
So, and I think the teachers are reasonable. I mean, if, you know, you say, hey, I
And
had an issue.
keep in mind too, one of the things with the Chromebooks is there is offline mode access to, let's say, I've been working on a doc at school, I can take that doc offline and continue to work on it, even though I don't have internet access. So there is that capability. Would it be great to have some staff 24/7? Absolutely. Is that gonna happen? Probably not, just because of the way that it is. And again, to Dr. Hall's point, how much would it actually be utilized?
We've got a 14% overage, which I applaud. I think, consider that like a self-insurance plan. I haven't thought through this enough, but I might challenge you to do so, trying to think about scenarios at which we have some catastrophic loss. I don't know how we get all 1,800 in a room at the same time and they all go poof, but I'm not suggesting that, but at what point might it make sense to look at some kind of aggregate insurance beyond some self-insured level?
Okay, we'll be covered under property casualty insurance.
Okay.
Sit back to the renewal last week, and we already accounted for these in these initial groups, so, in that case, that would certainly kick in.
What I really like about this is, you know, I go to my daughter's bedroom and I see an old, very old, beat-up textbook. And what I like about 1-1 is we're gonna have updated information, and she won't have multiple textbooks that she'll have to enroll. When we were in school, we had chemistry, biology, all these heavy books in a book bag, and it was terrible. You've got the ability to have all the information in one location, and it can be updated annually instead of learning something that happened 20 years ago. And I know that in some situations when you're dealing with math textbooks, maybe you know, 2 plus 2 has always been 4, but the way they taught 2 plus 2 has changed. So that can also be implemented. But, that's what I love about the technology that we got available to us. But I think that we also have a little bit of, maybe we don't have the or we do have the responsibility, but maybe some of the concerns she had when she talked to us this, before the meeting, how are we gonna implement this into the school district? And I don't think that we've done that yet. And maybe that would be something that we can put an effort in, so that now, especially parents that are getting introduced to Chromebooks, they know how they're run, the students know how they're run. I know that you've done a lot of work with the staff on training, and maybe, that's just something that needs to be reassured through the district, so that if we know we're gonna do this, everyone knows how we're gonna do it, how we're gonna pay for it, and why we're doing it.
Well, and I apologize, I didn't hear what the conversation was, I was out in the hall, so didn't hear that. But I will tell you that we do plan on holding community nights where we bring in the parents and, say, okay, this is the Chromebook, this is how you do X, Y, or Z, or these are the limitations, these are the functionalities.
Right.
We want to cover all those things.
And just to be sure, I know that you've talked to us in like study sessions with that, and this is all, preliminary, and that's probably maybe why, maybe your concerns were that you didn't know the information, because we've still been doing study sessions. This is being presented, and we haven't gone with a go yet, but I think it's the way we need to go.
Absolutely.
And I think I saw a couple studies, or parent sessions are already
April
scheduled,
30th,
right?
May 1st.
Yes.
So we have 2 parent meetings scheduled. Just put that was in the Citizen on Friday, and it's in my superintendent's report, and we'll continue to put out information about that. These would be for the parents of 5th through 11th graders on either April 30th or May 1st. Choose which meeting you come to, but we're doing 2 of them because it's impossible to find an open night in our school district, especially in the springtime. And so that will be an opportunity for parents to hear more about some of this presentation here, to actually see the Chromebooks, see the cases, get their questions answered. Our teachers are going to start talking to 5th through 11th graders in classrooms and getting them prepared for this is what it's going to look like when the Chromebook that you're going to receive. Freshmen are going to receive it at GRIP, and then junior high students and high school students will receive it sometime right around the beginning of school. So we do have some acceptable use policies that kids and parents need to sign off on so that they understand what our policies are and what acceptable use of technology is and is not. And so those are some of the things that we've got in place. And until, Dr. Cassidy kind of hit the nail on the head from the standpoint that, this is the night where you would, vote to purchase these. So we haven't put a whole lot out there until this has become final, hopefully, this evening. And then we have been on our early release days, training our 6th through 12th grade teachers at the junior high and high school. Got a whole semester of professional development plan. We're about halfway through with that. Chris Foreman has been overseeing that. And we plan to continue to do that over the summertime as well.
If I might add, one of the other things that is extremely important is, while your student may have a electronic device, whether it be a MacBook or whatever, we need to level the playing field, right? We need to make sure that every single student has the same access to technology that everybody else has. And by introducing these Chromebooks, we are leveling that playing field. I can't tell you enough how important it is for me to make sure that every student, is afforded the same access as everybody else.
Well, also provide staff with a standard device that our students are working on.
Correct. So that's the other thing too, is making sure that, okay, if you are using your device, I know how to support it.
How 5 years have you seen the change in curricular content? What's available on that Chromebook?
Unfortunately, that is not my area of expertise. That would be a better question for Mr. Foreman.
Well, it's been a while, but since I've been in college, but don't they pretty much use, do you buy textbooks in college anymore, or is most of it kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to be really clear that we're not talking about eliminating textbooks. There are amazing resources online, and many textbooks come with online resources, but that's going to be just dependent on what's needed in the class, what the teachers think and their expertise are the best materials to use for the class. So I think we'll see some reduction in that, in terms of books, but I'm not going to say here, it wouldn't be accurate to say we're going to eliminate actual textbooks and eliminate paper and that kind of thing. This is a tool to augment and enhance the instructional environment. The Chromebook is not the curriculum. It's a device to enhance what our teachers are already doing and give our students learning experiences they need to be ready to go into whatever they do after they graduate from our high school.
I got one last question. So we're gonna add these devices, and you said we're upping those, I forget what they're called, 50 and 26 at the high school. But so now are we gonna have 4 devices at the school that we're gonna have to be running? Because how do we know that just because we add this, you know, because we said each kid brings, each person has 2 to 3 devices. We're giving them another device.
So theoretically, this is just theory, those wireless access points will support up to 500 clients each. That's in theory. Best case is between 30 and 100 is where that sweet spot is. Now, the more you add, the more saturated it becomes and the slower it becomes, but theoretically 500. So it will be 100% sufficient. I have no doubt in that. It's similar to the one-to-one model where it's one access point per classroom. It's just a different terminology.
Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve grades 6 through 12 student Chromebooks and teacher laptops financing as presented. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Thank you, Gloria. Is there a second? Second. You'll give that to Lance? Further discussion or questions?
So do one more question. I saw in here information on escrow.
Yes.
Tell me why.
Because we're closing down, I'm sorry, we're receiving the devices now, making our first payment after July 1st of next fiscal year.
Good.
And the reason for that is if we wait until July 1, we may not get until September.
Sure,
Yep.
sure.
Right.
So,
We set Jerry loose on them already.
Yeah. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. If there's no further questions or discussion, we have a roll call vote, please.
Casson?
Yes.
Giles?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Reaver?
Yes.
Clark? Yes. Milky?
Yes.
McCombs?
Yes. This time, a closed session is necessary for number 1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees of the body, including hearing testimony and complaint lodged against an employee to determine his validity. 2, collective negotiated matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for 1 or more classes of employees. Is there a motion to go into closed session this time for those reasons? I'm excited, gang. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any roll call vote?
Reaver?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Clark? Yes. Milky?
Yes.
Casson?
Yes.
Giles?
Yes.
McCombs?
Yes, we'll take a 5-minute break to clear the room. We do not anticipate conducting any business when we return to open session.